When it comes to DAO, I think I'm, as a one of co-founders, and pretty open-minded to work with amazing male allies because I think there's big issues that cannot be solved if you just put yourself in the box and remove yourself from the world. I always
Mm.
had it thought that in order to change something, you actually need to collaborate with people. It's not about your gender. It's about your ability to change the world and make a fucking revolution.
That was Nadya. Nadya is just, quite frankly, a badass. She's one of the founders of Pussy Riot, which is a Russian feminist protest punk rock band. Some of their themes include feminism, LGBT rights, and the opposition to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Nadya spent 2 years in prison for her band's performance inside a Moscow church. Nadya is an NFT artist and collector, and also one of the founders of UnicornDAO, which is a DAO that focuses on collecting art by women and LGBTQ+. Let's chat with her. Nadya, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining me.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Really excited to talk about your crazy, wild adventure in all things life. And what's brought you into the NFT universe. But I'd love to back up first, prior to NFTs, and just talk about how you ended up where you are today. Can we talk about some of the activism stuff that you've done and just your background?
I was born in Siberia, in one of the coldest and most removed places on Earth. And it's partly, I think that background makes me really excited about metaverse and this connectivity that we have these days. Because when I was a kid, I knew for sure that I have to leave my home place and run away to Moscow in order to achieve something if I want to bring some cultural value. And what I like about metaverse and everything that's happening in the NFT space, that it actually provides us tools for decentralization. So, say if I was growing up today, I maybe necessarily didn't have to leave my hometown if I didn't want to, and could still make great impact from there. But that was different time. It was the 90s, and I was growing up feminist. I was growing up an environmentalist, but quickly, when I became a teenager, I realized that all of these problems are interconnected. And Putin came to power when I was 10 years old, and quickly, even though I was a kid, it was kind of obvious to me that it throws us back in time because like he's such a USSR type of person. He started as an autocrat, and like he's continuing his rule for 20 plus years as an autocrat. So I became an anti-Kremlin, anti-Putin activist when I was 15 years old. I moved to Moscow and I formed my first collective that was called War. Ironically, we definitely were not pro-war, but we ironically called ourselves War to contract our aesthetics and our art to complacency that we saw a lot in the art scene of the beginning of this century. At least that's what we saw in Russia. People didn't really talk about politics, and I always thought that if you do not express your views about politics, it means that you are supporting the status quo, whatever is happening, whatever is dominating. And so, like, whenever artist tells me that they're apolitical, it just basically in Russia it means that you're pro-Putin.
Where did all these, was this something where you had classmates or just different friends growing up that shared these similar views? Was it from a family structure? Like, what was it, something that was the opposite of your family's take on things? Like, how did you form these views so early on in life?
I found a book on feminism when I was a kid. Luckily, my mom had it for whatever reason. Well, my mom is a really, really strong lady. An interesting thing that not a lot of people understand about Russia is actually that it's a pretty progressive country when it comes to feminism, because since 2017 it was government ideology, and it has positive and negative sides. Obviously, it does damage things when they're being indoctrinated by the government forcefully, right? So that's why actually a number of girls, women these days, they still do not identify as feminists because they still remember this heritage of the Soviet Union when feminism was the government ideology. So for a Russian girl, it was not something. I mean, it was fairly natural, and in the 90s, we did explore a lot of different ideologies and talked a lot about politics. Obviously, because like old system fell apart, and new system was just like we were trying to find shape and form how we are going to live our lives. And even though I was a kid, it's still like it was really nurturing environment for that, and my family helped me with that because my dad is an artist, philosopher who would always encourage me to read political magazines. I remember when I was around 9 and I asked him to buy me Cosmopolitan or Glamour magazine. He said, "Oh, you're too old for that. It's past." And he would buy me political magazines. And at the time, we still did have independent political press. It's much more difficult these days in Russia, but that's a topic for a different conversation. And also, not a lot of people know, but I'm a founder of one of the most influential media outlets in Russia these days. It's called Media Zona. Like ever since we were released from jail in 2014, we started this media outlet. We have like more than 60 people working there, and right now they had to leave Russia because it's just becoming too dangerous because of the war. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I cherish a freedom of press, and it's yeah, and freedom of speech, and that's what formed my ideology in my mind when in the 90s when we did actually have it in Russia. So now I'm just trying to bring it back to future and like current younger generations to give them some food for thought, and it actually works. So we kind of are partly in charge of helping to shape this new generation of Russians who are 100% against Putin.
And when did you realize at some point that, when you looked at blockchain technology and what was going on there, was there a point where you thought, well, wait a second, this is, immutable. It's going to be forever stored. It's a way for us to leverage this in some way. Like, was it ever a thought of this technology actually might do some good, and in that it can't really be repressed or hidden in some regard?
It living with censorship for the last 20 plus years is definitely really interesting to see technology that are really difficult to, what's the English word, temper with.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also for me as an activist, it was always important to find ways how to organize on a global scale, and that I would say the same shit 15 years ago, and people would just treat me as an idiot because it was just actually really difficult. I mean, the reason why we like, built nation states at some point because we wanted to organize and want to vote to express our views, interests, and desires about our political future. So I feel like when I saw blockchains technology, I just immediately started to think about political use cases of that. And I mean, like, luckily, I'm not alone in that. Vitalik Buterin, who who invented Ethereum, he talks a lot about like how we can actually redistribute wealth, redistribute public goods better, and vote more flexibly, build something more like a direct or liquid democracy with using blockchain. And that's why all these experiments that we're running here right now, like these DAOs and votes on blockchain, like that's really interesting. That's like by no means it's easy because we have to reinvent a lot of rules, and like we have to write constitution for like every entity that we create. But it's exciting for me as a political actor, and I guess as a person who wants to be president of Russia one day. This is a really good opportunity to just learn how to how to work with larger groups of people, and and because and before that, I was working with larger groups of people, I guess, like with less structure. So Pussy Riot, I do refer to it as the earliest DAO because we just are decentralized. Like we don't have a leader. We don't like we have pretty flat structure as DAO should. But it wasn't formalized in a way that DAO can be formalized. So that's a really really interesting experiment, and really hope that we can we can learn how to and just basically build a case for better um, governance models, not just for groups of weirdos like us, but the people in Senate and other places can actually take it and use it as tools.
That's awesome. So you see this as like something that's broadly applicable to so many different potential political use cases for transparency and for voting
Hmm.
and for, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like, so, you've got this amazing band. You were thrown in prison for a while. Like you've been very heavy in the activism side of things. At what point did the technology side cross your path? Like when was it that you were like, oh, wait a second, this is something I need to get into?
Mm, and like, truth be told, I never was super technologically smart, and I think partly because I was conditioned as a lot of girls that it's not our area, which is like totally silly and stupid. And because growing up as a kid, I was really interested in technology and was reading a lot of books on like those early computers that I could lay my hands on. And then when I became a teenager, I was like, oh no, like a girl has to study journalism or philosophy and humanitarian knowledge. So part of my mission these days is just to break this stigma and actually let girls study whatever fuck they want. And that's partly why I love Excels, who was on your podcast, because she's such a great uh, programmer, and she combines both technology and art in herself, and she's a big inspiration for me. But as an activist, I always had to be aware of technology because, I mean, like, here's the thing. So if you're going against the state, you have to be aware about things like bugs and things like your computer, like getting hacked by the FSB, and you have to learn how to go against that. So it was part of my life always, like things using like Tor browser. Big shout out to
Yeah.
them. And just generally, so like I was growing up as ultra globalist, meaning that I will always try to find ways to for people to mobilize and work together outside of traditional big corporations. So for me, just learning about stuff that is open source was always interesting. And again, I'm not saying that I did learn something fucking majestic about that, but I guess the whole idea of owning technology and not having it just in hands of like a few powerful people always was really appealing to me as a person who wanted to empower myself and others.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, the only experience I have on that front is the time I spent in China. And when I got there, I spoke with some expats and we had our laptops out and I was like, I can't get to anything I want to get to. And they're like, no. Like, you just, everybody does it this way. And they showed me like all the different proxies and firewalls and everything you had to get through. And I'm
Yeah,
like, wow, like everyone just knows how to do this. And they're like, well, if you want to know and you know the
yeah,
right people, you can just do it. And I was kind of blown away by this like little underground that was running, that if you were in the know, you knew how to get through these different little blockades that went up. Is it similar like that to that in Russia as well?
pretty much. And it also helped me when I was in Thailand and I couldn't watch porn, so I think it's blocked, and I had to use Tor to watch porn. But
Multiple use
this
cases, this tour. Yeah.
absolutely. uh, in Russia, well, you use Tor because you don't want to be traced by the government mostly. So like lately, we did start to use Tor just to access different resources. Like wasn't really the case in the last. It wasn't the case up until the last 3 years. I would say was Russia was pretty different from China in like up until recently. It's just really sad to see how it all escalates really quickly and dictatorship takes over. Websites are being blocked. So these days, uh, it's important for people to know how to use VPN, how to use Tor, how to use crypto. Because even I have some family members who are still in Russia, and I cannot send them money if I'm outside of Russia. I cannot tell you where I am exactly because I'm geographically anonymous. But if I want to send the money outside of Russia, like banking, international banking system doesn't fuck with Russia anymore. I have to teach older members of my family how to, install crypto wallets because that's pretty much only the one way how we can support each other. And another interesting moment that I want to bring up here is when we collected money for UnicornDAO. Um, the crypto actually did protect a lot of people from being followed, being prosecuted by Russian government. Because if you're a Russian person, if you send money in traditional currency, then next thing happens, your bank account is being frozen, you're flagged, and you can have possible consequences for you at the workplace, and you can end up under a criminal case because, like right now, it's punishable up to 15 years to even discuss the war, even calling the war a war and not a special military operation.
Wow.
So by using crypto for collecting money, and we collected over $7 million in just a few days. We protected people who wanted to support Ukrainians in the early stages of the war. And another part that was really important that we could, without bureaucracy of traditional NGOs, and I've been working with NGOs. I'm a founder of a couple NGOs, and unfortunately, I know how bureaucratic and slow they could be, even if they're founded by like crazy and quick people like me. It still can take a while. So when you use crypto, we were able to disperse money just a matter of one day after. We just needed to make sure that people who will send the money, they have um, all security measures lined up because we were sending like 5 mil, 1 mil. And one more thing about that is it totally amazed me how Ukraine quickly picked up crypto toolbox, and remember they started their Bitcoin and Ethereum accounts like really after like first day after the war started, and they just tweeted it out. They were like, if you want to support Ukraine, just send this money in crypto.
It's a beautiful thing. It's how quickly that can happen, and it's going to get there, right? If they're tweeting out their address and it's verified, it's not like some random bank account. It's not going through some proxy that's taking
Yeah,
a cut off the top. It's just like it hits the wallet instantly. It's awesome. You
exactly, and
mentioned
it's transparent. Like there is no room to. I mean, there's always still room to steal the money, but it creates less of a possibility.
it seems like some of the structures that you've created, you mentioned earlier, they function like DAOs before DAOs were a thing. What was your first experience with DAOs, and was that like a pretty eye-opening moment? And then how did you get involved in your first DAO, and then take us through where you are today?
I think my first one was actually Metacartel. I met them in Denver at MCon. I was playing a show at IRL Gallery last year, uh, but I wasn't super active. I mean, like the first super meaningful DAO in my life is Blizzard, and I've been following Blizzard DAO for a while. I think they're on my radar for a number of reasons. I have big respect for them because, like, first of all, I mean, they're formed around a female artist, and female artists in general are so underrepresented, not just in NFT world, but also in traditional art world. I've been having these conversations with people forever. So seeing seeing a DAO that does not necessarily is consists of women. It actually mostly consists of men, but who came together to buy an artwork of female artists. That was really, really positive to me. And then I think the second purchase is Edward Snowden piece, which was for obvious reasons, like really, really resonating with me as another person who went through political persecution. We also have our own interesting story and interconnection with Edward Snowden, and also Chelsea Manning, and also Julian Assange. So all that crew is deeply deeply important to me. Blizzard DAO also bought an artwork of Ike Schultz, which I think started. I mean, like, I'm not. No, I mean, like, it was like one of the contributing factors why Ike Schultz became like one of the best-selling artists in the NFT scene. Period. I mean, like, not just as a female artist, but as just as artist. And I became a member of this DAO when I sold my artwork that was called Virgin Mary, Please Become a Feminist to them. It was an artwork that was based on my prison sentence, and I drew a Virgin Mary on top of it. And Virgin Mary, Please Become a Feminist is a part of my song that we sang in Cathedral of Christ the Savior, asking Virgin Mary to chase Putin away because we thought that he's going to bring big sorrow to our country. And it was 10 years anniversary of us getting sentenced. So it was a really big and symbolic moment for me. And I became a member of the DAO, learned a lot about structure of DAO's governance, like also problems the DAO can face, things like voter turnout. You know, it's been a really meaningful and interesting journey.
And that brought you to create your own DAO, right? So I'd love to hear about UnicornDAO, what the mandate is there for you all, and what you're set out to accomplish.
It started from me just running around at all these crypto conferences and talking with people obsessively about we have to support. We just have to make sure that women are as paid exactly as much as men, like at least, because that's just ridiculous what's happening. I noticed that there are a lot of disadvantages of being a female artist, and yeah, I feel like crypto also kind of doesn't help. Yeah, there is sexism in general in the art space, and there are certain parts of crypto culture that are brought by bros. Like, there are a lot of bros, and I just don't speak bro language, and that's the problem. So like, I mean, I can try to do that, but still I'm going to be alienated. Still I'm going to be exoticized and looked at like not as an artist first of all, but as someone else who's different from you. And I didn't like that dynamic. I'm not saying that it happens every time, but it did happen like a lot enough rooms for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm not really comfortable with that. So I want to create a network of individuals who want to support my vision of closing gender gap in Web3. And the reason why I want to close gender gap in Web3 because we're relatively new here, and we also do not really have a large amount of people to convince. Like, people are coming to our orbit for sure, a lot of them, and corporations, and it happens really quickly. So that's why me and my comrades are in a rush to establish this new paradigm that basically says that unlike in traditional art, women here in crypto are getting paid as much as men. And we've done a lot of campaigns, art campaigns and public art campaigns, and also used financial tools to actually support female plus artists, not just with words, but with money. UnicornDAO is a collector's DAO that is built on a model of Flamingo that you're really familiar with. And we work with Tribute Labs, our known tree, and they helped us to set up the DAO. They're covering all our legal structure, and like obviously they're amazing resource for just like for the network of great OG crypto people. What we noticed, and was really really positive, that most of the people we would pitch about coming into our DAO, they would say yes pretty immediately because I think for a lot. So what I like about crypto is people are actually pretty idealistic and they do want to build better world. They do not necessarily know how to solve certain issues. Like for example, obviously, like me with 15 plus years in feminism, women's rights, LGBTQ plus rights, like I obviously would know, I guess, better how to build this more equitable world. But it's so amazing that people's reaction is just like overwhelming. Yeah, yeah, we have to fix it. And like we're not the only ones. Like I'm celebrating like rise of female led collections and collectives, and they all support each other and work together to achieve this goal, which is it's pretty ambitious, but I like ambitious goals. Yeah. And one of my goals is get rid of Putin. Another one is to close gender gap in Web3.
Yeah, if you could knock those both out in a lifetime, that would be amazing. I'd appreciate that. So this is a really cool project. So you've gone out and for people that aren't familiar with Flamingo, they've got a series of investors. They bring in ETH as capital. They invest in the DAO, and then you as a DAO, as an entity, go out on well, you probably hold group, I would imagine, like weekly calls or every couple of weeks. Is that right? For what? And then you make it
Every
group.
weekend.
Yeah, so every week you go out and you hold a call and you make investment decisions based on what's being brought to the table. Is that how your DAO
Mm-hmm.
functions as well?
Exactly. Yeah. Just typical tribute model. We also have subcommittees. So sometimes we have our smaller calls. We have curatorial board that consists of notable and influential female plus people in the NFT space, like Blake Catherine, Betty, Deadfalls, Eggshells, etc. A lot of really great minds we put together to make sure that even though our investors are at least half male, we wanted to counterbalance this input with a really strong curatorial board. And well, our goals is goal number one is to make a really impressive fine art collection because and I feel here a lot of same resonance that you probably had when you started Grail project, right? You were talking about, it feels like we do care a little bit more about utility than about art itself, and that's fine for some P projects. But as an artist, I obviously really love art for the sake of art,
Yeah.
and so like part of our treasury is going to just pick up this amazing fine art pieces that can later find its place in places like MoMA and LACMA. Met. We're going to be working with traditional art institutions, and we have members of our curatorial board like Sophie Cohen, who works right now at the Gagosian Gallery, and she's going to be like, she's the one who's leading our connects with the traditional art world. We have Chanel Verdoux, who is known as a lead curator and community builder in Bright Moments right now. And she's also working with UnicornDAO, and she's in charge of art direction of our events. And we're all about creating this really high bar, high quality, immersive events and letting artists to show unusual side of them. For example, we want to work with people like Arca or Björk, who already build this immersive art installations, but also we want to work with other musicians who do not necessarily have an outlet right now to show that they're multidimensional multimedia artists, because traditional music industry puts you in this little box, and you have to say exactly what you are. You're a singer or you're a songwriter. And I feel like if you work with artists like Grimes or Sia, who are members of our DAO as well, they're going to be so much more excited if you come to them and say like, yo, like we have this money, do you want to build, and we have a place in Melmont, do you want to build an audiovisual multisensorial installation? And I mean, I bet that's going to be so much more interesting for them and fulfilling than just being invited to play another DJ set. So there is this this part of our focus, but also another one that we, like, at least I as an artist try not to forget about is investment part. And I think you would know much more, but we have luckily members who understand about investments much more than me. But I important part of Unicorn DAO is to prove actually that investing in female plus art is not a charitable act. That we're going to grow in value, and we're going to make more money for our investors. And so this is an interesting balance, because obviously, like with this fine art, you're going to be buying a lot of one-on-ones, and it will take a lot not much longer to appreciate in value. So this is this is an interesting world, but we have great people who are helping us, and including you as an advisor.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say that I love what you're doing. I think that I have, two young little girls at home, and I'm always trying to think about how I can have an impact that they'll be able to look back on and be proud of their dad for what I've contributed to the world. So I need to learn from you. Honestly, I need to figure out how I can be better in all the projects that we do. Grails was, I wanted to have 50% representation of female and also have a lot of Black artists as well. And we got in at 40%, which isn't where it should be. And so, maybe the next Grails we just do all female plus, or we just decide, we can do anything with that project, which is what's fun. I'm excited to do version 2 and 3 and 4 of it as well. Cause I love this idea that people stop for a second and they're not chasing a name or a hot commodity that's already known, but it gives them a second to look at the art and actually say, actually, that's beautiful. And then when it's revealed, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea it was that artist. And it introduces them to a whole new genre of art, a whole new artist, a whole new way of thinking, just by that one little flip of the switch, And so that's been a fun mechanic for us to play around with.
You know what I like about your approach to Grails? You said you don't want to do drops monthly or something. You don't want to be under pressure of any time frame, and you just like want to do it when you feel like you can deliver the best. And I think, yeah, I totally can relate to that. And really, really respect that.
Thank you. Yeah. The other thing that I was really we're trying to figure out is like, there's going to be some artists in there that are well known more so than others, right? And so their art is going to sell more on the secondary. And what we did initially, 100% of the sale of the NFTs and 100% of the royalties go to the artist. So we didn't take anything; it just went all directly to the artist forever. That'll just always the way that functions. But we divided up equally the revenue and split it amongst all artists, rather than singling one up and saying, "Hey, you're a more well-known artist, so we should pay you more." Yeah. It's tricky to figure out how this all works, but there's so many opportunities with smart contracts and the division of royalties, and there's gonna be a lot of fun to be had here.
I just recently participated in PAX Ash 2 drop, and it was similar mechanics. They split money among 30 artists who participated. It doesn't matter who's more and who's less known, and also secondary sales are split evenly 30.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Well, this is great. So how many seats do you have left in Unicorn? Can are you, I know there's obviously, just by the nature of the podcast, there's a lot of dudes listening to this show. So, you said you're a little bit less than 50%. Are you male, or how are you trying to figure out how to fill up the rest of the available seats? Are there even seats available?
There are seats available. We are planning to open it up to the public, and so anyone can apply, and we just go through all the applications and pick and choose. There are there are seats available. I mean, the question is, well, I guess the question is not about your gender. It's more about your expertise and your willingness to actually work in the DAO and bring something into the DAO more than just ease. And I personally am not a big fan of dividing people based on sex. I know sometimes it's a really, like, as you said, it was important for you to make sure that 50% are female. Like, this is a great example of that. But when it comes to DAO, I think I'm, as one of co-founders, and pretty open-minded to work with amazing male allies, because I think this big issues that cannot be solved if you just put yourself in the box and remove yourself from the world. I always had a thought that in order to change something, you actually need to collaborate with people, and also it's like a larger conversation about feminism. Like there are even master classes for men how to be feminist, and like if you are even in a group with your male friends and they say a sexist joke that you like don't really dig, like, so instead of just being a bypasser and be like, oh yeah, huh, that's funny, you'll be like, yo, no, I have two daughters and this is not cool, like you can't be talking like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do this kind of apply as well.
Was it actually from the masterclass people, or was it just like some other class you're talking about online? Or was it, because there is an
I
actual
think it
program
was
called Masterclass that I didn't know if they put one out or not.
it was like a TED talk about a guy
Oh,
who was
interesting.
teaching other men how to be better feminists, which is, I think, is possible. Like I know like a lot of my feminist friends, they would not agree. They don't even want to have guys at feminist rallies. But yeah, whatever. We're allowed to have different opinions. We have, um, well, we have a lot of amazing boys. We have people. As a member of our DAO, we have Yuga just officially came in, and I think Yuga, well, they do have female CEO, which is really dope. Um, I think it's their first investment outside of their own ecosystem, which is really interesting. And we had this long conversations, and I mean, like, Whale basically guys, Yuri is like one of our great friends and advisors, and he also helps to bring in World of Women to the DAO. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's not about your gender, it's about your ability to change the world and make a fucking revolution.
Yeah. Well said. Part of the what you're going after is finding these great artists and bringing them in as investments. What role do you think you all play in terms of finding the undiscovered artists and kind of lifting them up and bringing the world, like the world's attention to these new and up and coming artists?
That's why we have this curatorial board, and like one of our goals is to go outside of our comfort zone, outside of our bubble, and look out for people also not necessarily, I mean, like for people who are not known. And what's important for me personally, people outside of so-called first world, don't like that phrase, but how else you call it? I mean, I guess like I'm not a really big into Eurocentrism, because I'm from a country that's pretty far away, and like Spain, and also like I'm from Siberia, so nobody ever cares about what's happening in Siberia. So one of our important goals is to bring up emerging artists from all over the world. And one of the examples is vagina NFTs. They were not known at all, and I read their message. They wrote me, and I do like we do read messages, like just that write us a message on Twitter, and to Pussyverse or UnicornDAO. And I read a message from this vagina NFTs, and they were artists from Ukraine. It happened before the war, so we got in touch with them in December, January last year, and I got obsessed with their vaginas, but I couldn't believe that nobody's buying them because they were so good. It was a project of I think 200 ceramic vaginas, so like really low supply, but like really great. They deliver amazing art, which is hand painted ceramic vaginas, and if you buy it first, it's not. In the secondary, it doesn't work because like there is just one vagina. So I have a bunch of them, and I just started to buy them and send them to my girlfriends, and all of a sudden, the collection was sold out really quickly. And those guy and the girl later during the war wrote me that it actually, like the money that they generated helped them to get out of country in time in order not to get caught in a war zone situation. So history is like it's really important for me to discover new artists and support them because for them actually even a smaller amount of money can make such a big difference.
Yeah. Well, and you've got such a great editorial or curatorial board with yourself and Sia and Grimes, and it's like if you all decide something is awesome and you tell the world about it, I mean that's gonna put them on a different stage, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's not only us spending our ETH, but obviously it is about building our network, which is pretty great. But as a person who did build a media outlet earlier in my life, I actually have aspirations for building something for Unicorn to have our own propaganda wing. That's why I asked you about who's your PR team, and you were like, no one, it's just me. Impressive job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I hear you with the propaganda wing. That's what we're doing with Moonbirds as well. We've got our own little plans for a lot of guerrilla marketing on that front, which will be a lot of fun. I you
Oh my
mentioned
God.
earlier,
Can we talk about it sometime off camera?
yeah.
I really need to know.
Let's
You're
trade.
such a great role model. Like your guys are so organized. I think your job actually was like one of major kicks in our ass because we worked on Unicorn for a while, and sometimes you just feel like you lose like internal momentum, like not external but internal, and you're just like, okay, yeah, it's happening. And then like, Moonbird's drop happened, and all of a sudden we're just in panic mode. Okay, we're hiring the best people ever. We have to be professional because look at you. Yeah, you executed everything really well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It definitely was a lot of late nights, but it's so early in these things. That's the beautiful thing about it. I feel like we're all just we're talking about of people that hold Moonbirds and proof passes like it's just a few thousand people. Like this is going to be so much bigger, So it's such
Yeah.
early days when it comes to all this stuff. That's crazy.
But imagine how exciting it's going to be for those people who hold it 5 years from now.
Oh, absolutely. Knowing what we have in store for a roadmap, like yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun for them. That's on us now to go and build great products to kind of better serve them as holders of that. So very cool. So where do you see everything going? Like for you all, I know it's hard to predict even 6 months in the future in the world of all things NFTs and crypto, but like in terms of your career, is it something where do you still go back to the music side of things? Is DAO a big focus of yours now? NFT collecting, do you do it personally as well? Like, is there artists that you love that you personally collect? I'd love to hear all that.
So I really do love pack. I do love eggshells. I love people pleaser. What do I collect? Well, crypto commons, dead fellas. Sad girls bar is amazing.
I'm writing these
I
all
want
down
to.
as fast as I can, by the way. That's why I'm looking off to the side, like taking notes.
I collect some things on Sound XYZ because I think music NFTs are going to be big and they're growing up really quickly. And I mean, as a music artist, you ask me like how my music career is doing. I mean, like I'm still recording tons of music, but it's actually became so much easier because right now I can take gigs just that I absolutely love and don't do it to just get money to survive. I think it's such a more sustainable model. Also funny, like even with proof of work type of mechanism, it's still more environmentally sustainable to sell an NFT or a collection of NFTs and don't go on tour than to go on tour and like ride all of those buses and planes. But we are getting crucified for using NFTs because of environmental reasons. Well, that's why I can actually wait when the merge is going to happen. So like that's going to be so much easier to also onboard people, because I do want to show, and I doing it right now. Like every time I go to studio, I talk with my friends, and a lot of them are girl songwriters and producers, and they do struggle a lot. Like especially if they're producers, because like in production world, in music production, still they're so overlooked. The girls are not interested, and saying you should use this great tool because it, you're gonna leave your male producer counterparts behind, at least in terms of revenue, if you're going to step into the NFT world. Have some timepieces, have Women Rise, have After Party Utopian, have a bunch of vagina NFTs. I do like vaginas. What else? I collect a lot of my friends. I have a Crypto New Yorker, have Shepherd Fairy, a bunch of my pieces, Riot Girls. By the way, guys, they exist. Yeah, just a lot of female projects, obviously, because I know, you gotta not just talk, but actually do the walk. So yeah, and so it's an exciting year. It's been an exciting time ever since I stepped into NFTs with my first drop, and the first piece sold for 100 ETH.
I'm curious. You mentioned earlier that you connected with Gaio, like from Madonna's manager, Guy. Do you think Madonna gets into this world at some point?
I'm not allowed to comment on that.
I love that.
But wait, didn't she buy an NFT? Actually, she just recently bought something like an ape.
Oh, did she? I'd have to go look at that.
I think,
that's crazy.
yeah. I think she bought. No, Guy has the biggest network, and it's like he's in such a good crossover, and like he knows everyone in traditional entertainment industry through Bono and Madonna, and also manages Bored Ape Yacht Club and World of Women. And yeah, we just spoke with him. Like he was one of the people who helped us to put together the like DAO from early stages. Like we would have weekly calls with him. He's like really, really great advisor. He brought MoonPay to us, and MoonPay is doing a really interesting thing with the DAO. They like besides investing on their own, they're also sponsoring seats for artists. For those artists who do not necessarily have 50 ETH, like current buy-in is 50 ETH, who don't have 50 ETH to throw in the mix, MoonPay just covers it for free.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
That's great.
Awesome.
So if you guys are the representing corporation who wants to do some sponsorship seats for Unicorn for a female artist, feel free to reach out, UnicornDAO XYZ on Twitter.
Amazing. Can I donate like a Moonbird to the DAO itself as part of the treasury for you all to have as an asset?
Yes, of course. I mean, we're all obsessed with Moonbirds.
That's awesome. Well, we'll talk after the call on that one and figure all that stuff out. That sounds great.
I'm so excited.
Nadya, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else? I mean, we'll send people over to check out UnicornDAO and all your proper Twitter links and all of that. Anything else we should mention before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I almost forgot about it, but this is the most important thing that's happening right now in my life, besides writing music. But I would say these days, I actually went really nuts, and I'm spending 80% of my time on building Unicorn. And that's an interesting choice. I mean, definitely my artistic career being like, hey, hi, hello, we exist. But it's fine. You got to do what you're excited about. So now we hire a lot of people because we want to scale, and that's really important to build a great team. And we're looking for people for business operations, for marketing, PR, on our events side, COO is a big gap that we need to fill, and like really hope that next time we're going to be talking to you, we're already going to be having her or him. Again, it can be her, him, or they. So if you want to be involved somehow in Unicorn, and help us to just grow and be really deliver high quality product, because it's great to have amazing ideas. We do have a lot of them, but we have to execute it all and also sleep sometimes. So your help will be so valuable.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes to get people over there and checking you all out and seeing all the available roles that you have to offer.
Yeah.
Nadya, thank you so much for being on the show. This is awesome. I'd love to have you back anytime you launch anything new. And I'm excited to talk about all the stuff that you build into the future, because I know you're on the forefront of this stuff. It's going to be fun to watch over the years.
All of us. It's an exciting community.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. All right, that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you would like to help us out, head on over to proof.xyz and click on the reviews button at the very top and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks so much. Take care.